Sophomore jump for Jared McCain. No slump, hopefully, for year number 2 of the 76ers second-year man. Only 23 games, of course, in the books during his rookie campaign that was shut down due to injury. But if there's any indication of how he feels coming back from the surgery after us speaking to him in Las Vegas, hopefully some good things for Jared McCain. And we will discuss year number 2 for the very popular Sixers second-year guy. Welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast on a Tuesday. Also, home base, once again, presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Make sure you visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY, along with Derek Bodner, Kyle Newbeck. I'm Devon Givens, the president of basketball operations Bree. She is with us, all of you in the chat, and we thank you as always as we dive into year number 2 of Jared McCain. Hopefully you had a chance to check out our conversation with him in Las Vegas from last week, and we can, get into some of the things that he said, what the expectations are for him from all of us, all of you in the chat, and some things that you may have taken away from the conversation that we had with him and how he's feeling going into year number 2 and what that might look like. And Derek, looking at him with the 23 games, I wanted to kind of start with, because I was reading something a little bit earlier from where we all were about Dalton Connect at that time of the draft where he fell to that spot. And we were all in agreement that the choice should have been Dalton Connect. After McCain was selected, we gave our thoughts, and we also waited to see what it looked like on the floor. Training camp, all the players were talking about how good he looked. Joel Embiid going as far as to saying day one he was the best player in training camp at that time. And then we saw him play. We saw how it played out. I was looking at something, reading something where after Dalton Connect did not have a great year 2 summer league. We saw what it looked like in year 1 on the floor. We saw the bust-out games, 30-plus performances, multiple three-point games that he had, and also being traded and not necessarily getting back to the player that we saw after the trade was rescinded and he returned to the Los Angeles Lakers. But seeing that people talk about his value has dropped in the offseason because of he did not perform well in the summer league. And while Jared McCain did not play, we hear, even with the 23 games and nothing else to show for it, but hearing him speak and hearing the team talk about where he is in his progression as far as his rehab goes, and the confidence that people have in Jared McCain, so much so that when we were discussing possibly moving up for the Sixers from 3 to 2, I would throw out the name Jared McCain. Does he need to be involved in the trade with the Spurs? People are like, no, absolutely not. So he is, at that time, just feels like an untouchable type of player. And that says a lot for what he did in just 23 games. So if we were to fast forward now to where we are July 22nd, the X factor that he is for this upcoming season, the comeback, as Kyle also talked about in our group chats of where he is. What are you expecting from Jared McCain? If he's healthy, he's fully ready to go. What are you expecting in his role this year? What is that to be?
Yeah, and look, you mentioned our draft stance of preferring Dalton Connect. And I went back and I watched both that draft show and also like the show beforehand when we were talking about Jared McCain specifically leading up to the draft, because I do think an important part of, trying to scout the NBA draft is being a really scouting yourself and figuring out what you missed, why you missed it, and all of that stuff. And I went back to the show before the draft, and I think we're all pretty high on McCain. And we talked specifically about how we think he probably has more on-ball creation and passing equity than he was able to show at Duke. But it was really one thing that we couldn't get past, and that was his size and his ability to play next to Tyrese Maxey. And we probably overrated that a little bit. We probably underrated his offensive upside, which I would argue a lot of people did because he fell all the way to 16. But I don't think any of us, even though we were more on the Dalton Connect side at the time of the draft, I don't think any of us were down on Jared at all, really. And in fact, I think most of us said that he was worthy of being probably higher than a 16th pick. This was just the wrong fit for him. Now, again, we underrated his upside, and we'll miss on that. But like I said, I just want to get out there that I think we're pretty high on Jared McCain overall, even coming into the draft. And now that you've seen what he did in his rookie season, you have to factor that in a massive way. And a lot of people will be like, oh, it's only 23 games. You hear that a lot. But I went back, and from the time that he sort of became a regular in the rotation, really from his first 30-minute game until the game before he got his injury, because in the game he got injured, he was running around with a concussion for most of the day. I'm not going to count those stats in there. But there's a 15-game sample where he averaged 20 points, 3.2 assists, shot 46% from the field, and 39.5% from three-point range on nearly 8 attempts per game over a 15-game stretch. So I went back to all the rookies from 2010 on, roughly the modern era of the NBA, modern play style era. And I went through all of the rookies who had a 15-game stretch of averaging 20 points per game. And the thing that stunned me, it's not entirely unique, but there were no frauds in that list. Like, it's almost exclusively all-stars, with the exception of maybe Jalen Green. I think he's the one where you go, I don't know, that might be a little fraudulent number.
And I think I trust Jared McCain's wiring a little more than Jalen Green's. Like, the way his amateur history, the way he goes about, like, a little bit different from Jalen Green.
Yeah.
By a little bit, I mean a lot of it.
But my point is, there's I think a lot of people look at it and say, like, oh, well, it's one thing to do things for only a portion of a season. Show me it over the full year. And certainly I think there's a lot of validity to that. But it's really, really tough for somebody who doesn't have the talent to average, 20 points per game, to do that in his first taste of NBA action and do that over an extended stretch of even 15 games. So I think it's a pretty good representative. Like, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to come out here next season and average 20 points per game. But I think if he doesn't do that, it's more because he's not going to have the opportunity to do that, not that he doesn't have the ability to do that. I think what he showed last year is that he has way more on-ball equity than we expected. He's able to adapt way quicker than we expected to multiple different roles, and that the talent is legitimate. And I'm really excited to see how he's able to, he might not get the opportunity he had last year. Clearly, they lost everyone. But I'm really interested to see how he fits next to everyone on this every addition on this roster. Like, I can see him being a terror in transition, of pull-up threes in transition with VJ pushing the ball. I could see him learning a real dynamite two-man game with Joel Embiid if we are ever lucky enough to have Joel Embiid on the court with any kind of consistency. I can see all of this, and I think he's so adaptable, so plug and play, and his skill set meshes with pretty much everyone on the offensive side of the court. It's a key point. That I am really, really encouraged and really excited to see how he fits alongside this group.
Yeah, so here's the thing that I think was most striking about the 20-whatever games that he ends up playing. It was that it didn't even necessarily matter whether they had guys healthy and it was close to the full group, as close as they got to having a full group on the floor last year. But it didn't matter if they were super healthy or super banged up, right? He was able to get into the lineup and, frankly, stand out from most of those guys, including in some of these games from their star players, right? Like, one of the games that really jumps out at you as you go back through the log from last year is the road game against Orlando, right? Where Tyrese Maxey, I believe, was out for that game, but Paul George and Joel Embiid are both healthy and available. So you presume going into that game, all right, Tyrese is out, but you're going to start to plant the seeds for, this is the Paul George, Joel Embiid connection. You're going to play through them in the two-man game and try to get into some stuff. And it ends up, honestly, being a Jared McCain showcase game, right? 5 of 10 from 3, 10 of 17 from the field, 29 points, 4 assists. Like, his ability to just do whatever is needed on offense, I think, is unique for, just first-year guards, certainly, but super unique on this team where you do have a lot of guys who last year or in years past were specialists, right? I think the most surprising thing was they could give him the ball and let him run the point, and it went way better than I think we all probably expected. There was a little bit of the is he going to be able to break guys down off the dribble? And if he can't do that, if he's not getting to the paint, if he's not drawing help around the rim, how is he going to be able to create slash and kick opportunities? How is he going to be able to, hit drop-offs, make plays in the pick and roll? Bunch of different stuff, right? But all those concerns were basically non-existent, right? So all we're really left with in terms of what is Jared's ceiling, but what is Jared's ceiling on this team, is all just about the defensive fit with Tyrese Maxey. I think the offensive versatility he showed last year, like the movement shooting, the ability to fly around screens, reset, one dribble, two dribble, pull up for a mid-range, the scoop shots on those layups. Like there was enough 3-level scoring ability and on and off ball ability that I feel almost zero concern about offense. He's just such a smart and frankly just disciplined player that I think all of that'll scale up and that'll translate next to just about anyone. It really just comes down to the defense, right? And that if we step back and say, hey, look, all of our expectations are relatively in check for Joel Embiid and Paul George and this team as a contention-ready group, then I'm okay with living with growing pains, right? I'm okay with throwing out the Maxey McCain backcourt. I'm okay with throwing out 3-guard looks with Edgecombe alongside those two and just saying, let's just see what it looks like, right? Look at these combinations, see how they play off of one another. Because I do think, Oklahoma City won the title and they were by far the best defense in the league. And so I think, immediately people say, well, you have to build every guy's got to be 6'5" and a great defender and this and that. But I think as someone who really values defense, that it's just hard. You're not going to get lockdown defenders at every position. And I think offense and shooting is at such a premium. You add on top of that the good decision-making Jared showed. I just think this is a kid who has already shown the potential to be a long-term, big-time contributor. The question is just, is that here? Who is it next to? And kind of what does that all look like?
That Orlando game was the one I was also going to go to because I remember specifically, obviously, we were doing our show on the road that day. We were downtown doing our show. It was great. Turnout was fantastic. That was the play-in tournament game in Orlando. And I remember specifically before that and during our pregame show, because he was on such a good run and we had started to look at the games and the players that he was going to be playing against offensively and how was he going to be able to fare against them. And I remember specifically talking about, all right, now he's about to go up against this menace and this dog and Jalen Suggs. After seeing all the stuff he's done to everybody else, that was great. Now I want to see him do this on the road against this guy. And he came out, no Tyrese Maxey, and he did that to that guy. Now I'm not making him out. Now you're right. Now I'm not making him out to be, this all-world defender. But in today's league, he's an all-NBA defender, first team. He's that good. He means that much to the Orlando Magic and what he does. And when he came out, he started cooking him. And to your point of it being a showcase game for him, while Embiid and George were there, they were there. They were doing their stuff, but they were there because it became his show. And as we were sitting there watching the game with all of our diehard members who are with us, and as the game is going on, at some point, Kyle was talking to everybody. Derek's over here talking. I'm sitting here in front with Jamie like, I don't want to talk to anybody because I can't talk to these people while he's doing this thing. This is not real. And it was real.
Funny. I don't want to talk to anybody. Usually my role among the group.
Right.
Here it is because of you.
Because I was sitting there like, all right, this at some point they're going to figure this out, Orlando. And they couldn't. And he was taking on the challenge because he was Jalen Suggs. They pick up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the very reason of knocking down threes and defending guys and also adding that length there to do that when he couldn't maybe and he got caught on the switch. He's frying him too. And it just became so obvious that the scoring part of it's going to be fine. And we had saw enough before in pre-injury that we thought, all right, we're going to get this runway of he and Maxey figuring it out for the rest of the season. And this is going to be a big part of this year of figuring out how these two play. Unfortunately, that was taken away from us. But even with that, that has given us enough faith and belief that in year two, because of the person, number one, and then the player showing what he does, and then hearing how he had accepted that he was hurt, that's what it was, but he was going to take that opportunity for sitting on the bench and rehabbing and all that to use that as a time frame and a time period to watch and pick up tendencies and watch defenses and see how he could be better. right now making this a useful moment of trying to figure out how he can now translate that into getting back on the floor for next season. So while we still have to wait to that, it was unfortunate that we did not get a chance to see that in Summer League, because that would have been fun. That now, as Derek, you said in your very first part of the opening, pointing out of how intriguing that is now to seeing what then turns into him next to Maxey or any of these other guards that are out there on the floor on the offensive end, because of that shooting, that movement, that relocating, Kyle, that you talked about. The fact that when he had to be the point guard because other players were unavailable, it's nothing fancy to his game. It's just fundamental, and he is stopping people from taking the basketball away from him or getting them into their sets and making the right pass, making that connected pass, making that one-handed pass off the bounce without picking up his dribble. Or when he does give it up, that scoop shot and the pivot and the footwork that is there for a fundamental player that is 6'2", 6'3", that is not necessarily always going to elevate over people. He has to do it this way. So when we were talking about Con Knipple yesterday, or even pre-draft, and the 2-foot stuff that he does, well, McCain still does the 1-foot stuff, but he's also very good with the 2-foot stuff and the fundamentals of the game that makes him for who he is. So that is where it's going to be so fun to watch him with everybody else. And if they're healthy, again, of what that looks like, what that rotation looks like, how many minutes he's going to play. If he's hot, he's going to be the one that's staying in, while others may have to be relegated necessarily to the bench, and they have to be okay with that because the guy is just hot. The defensive stuff, that's going to play itself out. We're going to figure it out. But we've seen smaller guards in the league have success and win regular season basketball games. We've seen them win in the postseason. The big part of that, as Kyle alluded to, is the supporting cast. Can they make up for the deficiencies of that lack of height, if you will, on the defensive end? But offensively, they are so good. The firepower is so good that stuff may not matter because of the other players that are surrounding them in the 3 and the 4 and the 5. That's going to make up for the lack of height and help them on the defensive end. There's no lack of fight in either he and Maxey. They will compete. It's just a matter of how much is that offense on the other side too good, where they shoot over them, they get by them, whatever it may be, that it's just, okay, you won that one. Now let's go on the other end. Let's see how you stop me and slow us down in the same respect.
And Devon, to that point about the fight, I think, probably the biggest thing that all of us held on to after he had a disappointing summer league on the floor, right? But when we were talking to people, both with the Sixers, people in the scouting community, just people out there in Vegas last year as he's coming off of his draft, there were a lot of people saying, I am 0.0% worried about whether he shoots the ball well in summer league, what his stats are, all that, because this kid is a big time worker, right? And is a purposeful worker, like has an understanding of who he is. And that is a smaller guard by NBA standards, and is going to use what he has in the most effective way possible, right? So when we started seeing those, same leg, same hand finishes around the basket where you're disarming shot blockers, you're catching people off guard, that's someone who was very deliberate with his trainers and his coaches. Like, hey, this is a way that you can limit those disadvantages, right? That you can mitigate those. You can say, all right, if you're going to try to load up on me, I'll just get there a step faster. I will think ahead of what you're going to do and rep that and drill that so many times that once you start anticipating that, I have a counter, right? You sell out on my 3-point shot, I got a side dribble, or I just got a quick closeout and I get into the paint and then I find the extra pass somewhere. And seeing him at the Sixers practices going through those post-practice sessions, like obviously we see a lot of guys go through their paces after a team workout is done. But for a 19-year-old kid, the intensity that he is going through those drills at, and like, frankly, the difficulty of the stuff they're putting him through, right? Like you compare the shooting drill he's doing to one we might see for some of these other guys where it's a lot of standstill. He's taken some that are like 15-foot dead sprint to the corner, immediately rise and fire type shots. And so to see him going through that stuff, you're already like, man, this guy is so far ahead of most kids his age as a shooter. And as long as those shots are going down, he is so scary to have to chase and follow around the court. It just makes everything else so difficult to stop. So I think we have seen the early stages of a kid who is going to do everything humanly possible to put himself in the best position. And I think all of us over the years that we've, followed the league, but also covered it very closely, if you're betting on people who are going to be able to overcome, if it's defensive limitations, if it's positional stuff, whatever it might be, he has all the signs of a guy who's going to do the right stuff to carve out a long career in this league. And frankly, I think the defensive stuff is mostly just on ball, right? Like, I don't think he is at least long-term, I think he's smart enough that we would all say, yeah, I expect him to probably get to at least neutral, if not better, as a team and scheme defender, like making low man rotations, closing out, rotate, all that. It's just a matter of how much matchup versatility does he have, and how does that impact the rest of your lineup?
Yeah. And it's really a shame. Oh, I feel like we probably want to talk to some of our friends before we get into maybe the next part. So
we'll get there.
Do his thing.
We'll get there. Do your thing.
I didn't realize we're this deep.
No, don't lose your train of thought. Just go ahead.
I'll remember. There's nothing else going on in that head anyway. I'm good.
All right. When we come back, we'll get Derek's thoughts that he will remember when we get back. I want to add to something Kyle pointed out with the shooting and the closeout, with the defenders flying at him and what he does there. We'll get into it all as we talk about year two. No sophomore slump for Jared McCain. How good will he be in year two? What are you expecting? We'll discuss it all right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.
All right, guys. First up, we want to tell you about Empire Today, because just like your favorite team needs a home court advantage, your home needs a home floor advantage as well. And Empire Today can help you get it. Empire Today has dedicated flooring experts, dedicated flooring professionals who focus on flooring every single day. Because we've all been to some of those big box stores, and while they might have a flooring department, the person that's actually there helping you doing the flooring may have been doing sinks yesterday and could be stocking light bulbs tomorrow. Empire Today lives and breathes flooring, and they will be with you every step of the way. Their flooring experts bring the showroom right to your home. You pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space so you can see how it looks with your furniture and in your house. You get precise measurements taken and have all of your questions answered, so there are no surprises. With Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details.
All right, so I walked into my garage yesterday, and it felt like a sauna.
I got to tell you, Devon, this Philadelphia heat, especially coming off a cool period, no joke.
All right, so here's what I did. I got like 10 bags of ice, and I made myself an ice bath to stay cool instead of turning on the AC.
But why wouldn't you just turn on your air conditioning?
Well, I was trying to be energy efficient. Go green, go birds, right? And a little power dribble. Make sure I stay away from it.
Yeah, but, instead of icing yourself out, you could just check out Pico's energy saving rebates. They've got deals on Energy Star cooling equipment that actually work, and they cut down your bills.
Hold on. So no more ice?
Unless it's an ice cold beer, Devon, we don't need to talk about ice.
That makes a lot of sense.
So everybody just head to pico.com/ways to save. They've got tips for everything. Heating, cooling, lighting, you name it. Don't resort to ice like my friend Devon over here.
Well, maybe you do. Maybe you do sometimes. Welcome back to the PHLY Sixers podcast presented by Rothman Orthopedics. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY. All right. Derek, your thoughts on what you were saying about McCain before the break?
No, it's one of so there are like a million shames of last year, mostly that we all had to sit through and watch it. And especially for those in the chat who aren't getting paid to do so, I really feel for you. But one of the real shames is that we just didn't get a chance to evaluate how viable the McCain and Maxey pairing were defensively. And by that, I don't mean like they're going to be good defensively, because we all know they're not going to be as a tandem good. But do you have pieces around them that you can make up for it? Because McCain and Maxey played 248 minutes together. Only 34 of those 248 minutes came with Joel Embiid on the floor, and only 19 came with all four of McCain, Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George. So we all know, like, this isn't even really, I don't even really question McCain's individual defense all that much. Like, I think he's a smart enough team defender. Like, he's 6'2" at the 6'3" wingspan. There's no getting around it. He's never going to be a great defender, probably. But he can probably get to neutral just on his smarts, on his anticipation, and on his effort. And I think all three of those were on display last year. But the question is, can the two of them be viable, not just in the regular season? Because I think we all believe they can probably win a lot of games if they're healthy and those two are on the floor. It's going to be viable in the playoffs as a tandem, as a big minute tandem too, because when you get to the playoffs, like Tyrese Maxey's playing 40 minutes per game. There's not that much staggering you can do in the world to offset that defensive limitation. And a lot of that's going to come down to the other three people on the floor. And that's including Joel Embiid being the Joel Embiid that we knew before last year, not the Joel Embiid that we saw in January that looked like a shell of himself defensively. That includes Paul George being a switchable and active help and recover defender. That again, 19 minutes with all four. 19. That's nothing. That's a half of basketball. So it really is like, this is going to be an evaluation year. Like, I don't want to say it's an evaluation year. People are going to read into that. But like we talked just yesterday about, like, there's a lot of different ways to come at this year. And early on, I want to be able to get a good sense of how well those two play on the court together, because that question of whether or not you can actually have them on the floor for the playoffs is just something we're not going to be able to answer. And we're not going to be able to move on from that question until we actually get to see it.
So the thing that I wanted to add to that is Kyle speaking about the flyby on the defenders to close out. The important thing that we saw from him was that, again, just keeping his dribble and allowing that play to live on, and not just stopping at a spot where he felt like it was going to be a pull-up and taking that shot somewhere 19, 17, 15, whatever he decided to make that decision. But he keeps that dribble. He allows himself to get to the basket and finish some way, some shape or form. He does so. Or he finds that other guy in the corner, spotted up, ready to shoot because the defense is now collapsed. That's a good look for them. Or the fact that we saw where he did pick up his dribble a few times, where he didn't get too concerned about it, and he was still able to shoot over the lengthy defenders with that fadeaway because he has such a strong base where he's able to get up and take that shot. And when Kyle was referencing when we watched him in Summer League last year during practice, watching them, the assistant coaches and the player development coaches run them through that stuff, we got tired. We were like, man, this dude's just constantly running. And
it's not hard to make us tired relative to professional athletes, though, Devon, in fairness.
But going from spot to spot and starting from the low release point of the paint maybe and pushing back out to the 3-point line. No, it's not good enough. Not to just the 3-point line. Now you got to step three more spaces back from the 3-point line and take that shot, because these guys close out so fast and they're so, they're so, the wingspans are so long that can be a problem. Well, we saw it in Summer League and we weren't sure that it was going to work. And then it did. And that's just a testament to his work ethic, the stuff that the guys here talked about in their scouting of what the word was from his high school days to his college days, of just how hard the guy works and doesn't give up and make sure that he's ready for anything that is there. And even in that one, what did he play in that one tournament game he played in before they were eliminated? In the one NCAA tournament game that he played in, and he scored 30. I think he scored 30 and hit a bunch of threes, kept his team in it. But the guy's a gamer, and that's all we want to see, is a guy that goes out there and compete, despite some of the limitations that he may have physically to him, that he still goes out there and he did stuff. He quieted a lot of doubters, and I'm not even just talking about what we may have thought. It was Sixer fans that were like, this guy's too short. You already have a small guard. And we talked about that even during this season of the additions to this team, of why you shouldn't go after other prospects and why you shouldn't sign other players, etc. But he quieted a lot of people pretty fast when he got there out there on the floor and showed it. And a lot of times he was left out there by himself because of the injuries that it was sustained by the others. He was left out there to do a lot of the dirty work, and he did. And he was rookie of the week. I don't know if he ever got rookie of the month. Maybe he did, but he was rookie of the week. He was that good. And we were all devastated when the news came down that he could not play, because it was something that we wanted to see and evaluate for the year because of all the other things that were taken away from the Sixers of seeing this dude play and seeing what it looked like. So very curious to see, just like these two guys are, of what it looks like when he gets out there with the others and how that may work, how that may fit, because he's that good. And it's just, what would he look like if it wasn't as crowded? But this is a good problem for them to have. And I think everybody's excited to see him come back and seeing how it would all work out and seeing what that may look like with the other players fully healthy, and then the other guards out there in the mix with them as well. Now, I know that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit later, of how it all plays out. And maybe that's we
might as well. This is probably the time to pivot, right, Devon? Because I think on top of what you're saying here with,
and real fast, Kyle, because Marcus says it too. He was on his way to being rookie of the year during that few months that we saw.
No doubt about it.
It was no question.
He was rookie of the month in November, by the way.
Okay, it was. Okay. So, yeah, he was on his way to being rookie of the year. Thanks, Marcus. I appreciate that. Totally forgot about that. That's how good he was in the class that we thought, man, these guys are really good. And Zach Edey's going to run away with it. And this rookie's doing that. Jared McCain was smoking those dudes and to that point of what he was doing. Sorry to cut you off on that one.
No, you're good. But so here's the thing, and why this is you can't just treat him as like, well, he's a star or whatever. Is not just about the crowded backcourt. It's not just taking VJ Edgecombe. It's not just that, Grimes, we presume, will be here, and Jared didn't play with him at all because Grimes was not even here yet before he got hurt. One of the most fascinating things, if you take the injury part out of it, is that Jared still has not had a real NBA season, right? Like, he played what would be a short college season, but still 23 games or whatever it was. And so we didn't get to see him go through the typical rookie year of a guy who plays from, October to April. When would he have hit the wall? When would it have happened that, hey, he's just going to have like a bad month or a bad few weeks or, whatever it might be, where he looks off the pace, whether that's physical wear down, if it's being more prominent on the scouting report. It's like all these little things that as a NBA player you go through in that first year, and then you come back in year two a little bit more prepared. Unfortunately, he didn't get that, right? And while I do think that Jared is detail-oriented enough and is as much a student of the game as you can be to try to make up some of that from the sideline, and certainly when he's not with the team, when he's at home just, consuming basketball, watching film, whatever it might be, it is always different from the lived experience, right? When you have to play game 50 and you've never played more than like 30 games in a season before, and then you still got 30 plus games, like how much do you have to give? How much are you willing to give? Or can you make that, third and fourth rotation on a specific possession? And so this is going to test him physically for sure. And you add on the injury on top of that, that's a real thing that he's going to have to contend with this year. So that's not to say he won't be prepared for it, right? Because I did see we had a chatter who mentioned something like Jared needs to put on weight. One thing I am not worried about with Jared are the weight room habits.
Yeah, and he's got some freaking tree trunks for legs too.
Yeah, like he is, for the size he is height-wise, he is as built as a 20-year-old can probably be, right? And dating back before we even saw him, playing NBA games, there were friends of the show who referred us to, hey, you might want to try to get in touch with, some of the strength and conditioning people at Duke and people who are around the program, because what I have heard is this kid is a maniac about, in the weight room every day, taking all the conditioning stuff very seriously. So like, I think all that, as far as, again, what is the work he's going to do to try to put himself in the best position? That's all good. It's just like, you can't really know what it's like to be in game 55 out of 82 until you've had to live it, right? And so I guess the good thing is, if you want to look at the crowded backcourt in a positive lens, you don't have to ask Jared McCain to go out there and play 36 minutes because they don't have anybody else. There are some nights he might play 25 or 20 minutes. Somebody else is cooking, or he's just not playing well. And that's a night that you save some wear and tear on those legs. You say, hey, Jared, you had a meniscus issue last year. Other guys are rolling. And I think he has the mental makeup that he probably won't take it the way that some other guys would. So I think it'll be a challenge, certainly, to acclimate to your first, real NBA season, full-length NBA season, hopefully, knock on wood, making some assumptions here. But I'm optimistic and excited to watch him go through that process that all these guys have to eventually go through.
All right, let's take a quick pause. You know what, Bree? Let's show everybody the Jared from. He's been busy. Look at Jared in the new Jordan Brand commercial, where they're doing like a hard knock life type of musical. Bam Adebayo, Paolo Banchero, Gabby Williams from the Seattle Storm. So many NBA players that are under the Jordan Brand. People forget that Jared McCain is a Jordan Brand athlete. And he is also in this commercial. There's a 30-second version. Then there's one that's like a minute and 30 seconds of a long, lengthy commercial that they have. So Jared McCain definitely in the mix with one of the top brands in all of sports with Michael Jordan.
Hey, Jared, if you can get me some Space Jam 11s, I would greatly appreciate it, my friend.
I don't think he would tell you. I don't think he wouldn't tell you no. He would just say, let me see what I can do. Whether he comes through with them, that's another story. But yeah, he seems like the kind of guy to be like, let me see what I can do. Let me see if I can pull some strings, because those are indeed classic. The Jordan 11s, the best. The best? You think they're the best?
It's those. I like the Jordan 3s a lot. Trying to think of what else is. Are you a 4 guy? Because yes, I feel like those are divisive for some people.
No, I'm a huge Jordan 4 guy. Can be a little heavy, but the shoe itself is great. I love the Jordan 2s, kind of underrated. Have a pair of those. And the 11s, though, the Concords are classics for sure. The black patent leather.
The 3s and the 4s I love. And then the 11s, I think, are once upon a time, I thought I was going to wear those on my wedding day. And then I got closer to my wedding day and was like, I think I'll just wear some classy. I think I wore like velvet shoes of my tux on the day of my wedding. So
should have worn them at the reception. That would have went over.
The funny thing is, I did end up wearing sneakers, but it was because I didn't break in the new velvet shoes enough, and so they were cutting into my heels. It was a whole thing. So
yeah,
I should have brought the Jordan 11s, and the crisis would have been avoided.
We got the sneaker talk in the chat now. D Fry saying I love the Space Jam 11s. Need the Bugs Bunny 8s this year. I think they just dropped the black ones with the turquoise, the Charlotte Hornets color. They just dropped those. Black stock. Marcus says 5s, 4s, and the low 11s. Also have those. I have the 11 IEs. I have those as well. I have them in black. So yeah, great commercial though. Jordan Brand. Not bad, Jared McCain. Not bad. When we come back,
money, young man.
Yes, indeed. When we come back, we'll get into so much more about Jared McCain, the backcourt, where things stand right now for the Philadelphia 76ers, and we'll tell you about our new film session that we have coming up right here shortly on the PHLY Sixers podcast. All right, and I got to tell you about Parks Casino and the Excite Center. Parks Casino and the Excite Center. One of the many things that I do love about my casino of choice. And if you're looking to get there, well, Parks Casino is Pennsylvania's #1 casino and is close to the Philadelphia area, located in Ben Salem. All you have to do is take the Street Road exit off of I-95 and the PA Turnpike. The Excite Center is the state-of-the-art entertainment venue that's located right inside Parks Casino. It's very cool. It's right next to the sports book if you decide you want to do some things there. The beer garden is right outside of the sports book. You want to hang out there for a little bit. If you got there early before your show of choice starts, you can do all of that there by visiting parkscasino.com to buy tickets for your show that you have seen on the list of shows that you have interest in. Pre-game the shows, like I said, at the beer garden, maybe slide over to the casino area, play some pop culture slots, roulette cards, and other table games you love while you wait, or some of the other available restaurants that are all inside of Parks Casino. Go to parkscasino.com, check out the full list of talent that's going to be there so you can go hang out at my favorite casino in all of the Philadelphia area. That's once again, Parks Casino. This is how you win. Must be 21 plus and over. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also have to talk to you about our presenting sponsor here on the show. That is Rothman Orthopedics, my good people that Kyle asked yesterday, maybe if you're not feeling well, can you go there and get checked out? Like if you're running a fever, if you're a little sick. I don't have the answer for that. But
we got our Bubble Boys here in their home studio.
Yes, we do. But as far as other injuries go, like maybe taking a run along Kelly Drive, playing some tennis, and you tweak a little something with your shoulder, maybe your knee, your ankle, whichever one is bothering you, or running around with the kids, vacation, and a little issue that you're coming back home and you want to get it checked out immediately, that's where we have Rothman Orthopedics. We've all been there. You're trying to power through your summer plans. You ignore that nagging injury, that stubborn pain. It won't go away. Well, don't do that. Just go visit my good people, our good people, and trust Rothman Orthopedics. So Rothman, they specialize in everything, and they're here to treat you with whatever is holding you back. Their top tier care will have you moving and enjoying every minute of the summer like you intended to. The summer we're already midway through it, and you don't want an injury slowing you down while you still have that remaining time to have fun with your loved ones on your various trips that you're taking. Year over year, Rothman consistently performs among the highest volume of hip, knee, shoulder, and ankle replacements in the country at over 60,000. I am one of them with the knee and the ankle. So if you're like me and you need to be checked out, go check out my good people, our good people, once again at Rothman Orthopedics. If pain is slowing you down this season, take that first step. Check out rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and then schedule your appointment today. Visit Rothman, once again, ortho.com/PHLY, Rothman Orthopedics, your summer, your mobility, their mission. Welcome back to our show presented by Rothman Orthopedics, the PHLY Sixers podcast. And our film session is upcoming next week. Kyle, you said it's next week? July 29th, a week from today, 6 to 8 p.m. for diehard members only to hang out with us in our studio and our offices and go through a film session with the PHLY Sixers podcast. All four of us, including Rich, hopefully in studio with us in the office. Vince maybe being there. Chris is there. And food.
I mean, Vince
drinks.
better be there, man. We need some food.
Yes. Well, he always orders it, but everybody will be there. The Pop-A Shot machine, if you want to take your chances again, if you were at one of our other events, like our lottery show, and you tried to beat us at Pop-A Shot and you couldn't do that, you have another shot in our offices on July 29th for our very first film session. If you are familiar with the film session with Fran for the Birds during the draft time and post-draft, then we'll have a similar thing here where we can go over some things with some Sixers players and maybe some Nick Nurse things as well with the film session. So hang out with us. Go to allphly.com. You must be a diehard member. Sign up if you are not to hang out with us for our very first film session at the offices.
Hey, by the way, big news out of Las Vegas. The full Summer League MVP has been announced. Does anyone want to make some guesses if they have not seen who it was? Because Con Knipple apparently won the championship game MVP. This is for full Summer League.
Kyle Filipowski. Is he on the list?
It's Kyle Filipowski. Good job, Devon.
Is it really? Okay. I was kidding. Wow.
No, he was putting up crazy numbers.
I thought he would be like first team or something, but okay, Kyle Filipowski.
There you go. So
nice.
That's the Jazz won something.
Nice. Well, they
Good for
did.
them.
They won something, and they won the opportunity to have Ace Bailey, his agent, and his son also there, and deal with that. That's going on.
No comment.
No comment. Oh man! All right. Any other parts of it with Jared McCain that you guys wanted to throw out there? Because Gene had brought up smaller backcourts have won in the past. Look at the 2021 semis. We know how that went against the Sixers. We know with Allen Iverson, CJ McCollum, and Damian Lillard, playoff success where they've gotten past the first round multiple times. The 1 year where they broke through, got a lot of luck, but they were still very successful in their pairing in the backcourt for many years with the Portland Trailblazers. So it has been done, and we're not simply cementing Jared McCain in the backcourt with Maxey as a starter. We've also put Quentin Grimes there. We've had VJ Edgecombe there. Training camp will play all of that and sort that out. But we've seen where, Derek, there's been success in the past where smaller backcourts have had success. Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars are legendary, but hey, they are still two smaller guys in the backcourt that have had success.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually qualified success, though. It's usually not. And look, I think a lot of times we can get caught into like what archetypes have won a championship, because at least up until recently, there just aren't that many teams that win championships. Like there is a lot of repeat champions. You're talking about, over a 20-year stretch, there might be 8 to 10 champions, maybe a little bit more. But if you're only looking at those archetypes and those team building strategies to try to build a team, you're going to limit yourself very much. But I do think there is some concern over like, all right, these two guys that are 6'2", 6'3", can you build a championship caliber defense around them? I think that is a legitimate concern. Like I said earlier, we won't be able to test that until we get a chance to really see them on the floor. But even when you're comparing to someone like Dame Lillard and CJ, like they never had a Joel Embiid to control the paint like that. They never had defensive versatility like Paul George and Kelly Oubre, and even, VJ and what we think he can become. So I think like it is one thing to say like, yeah, that's a concern. Can they mitigate that? A lot of it is going to come back to the big fella, which you hate to say, but it's always going to be true. But if he does get back, they can be super, super unique in their team construction and their ability to overcome weaknesses. And if not, then this becomes an evaluation year, and you see whether or not they can play next to each other. You see which one truly grows and takes that next step. And I'm just excited for it. Like we have not had this much young talent to watch develop in a long time. And it's like I said in the show yesterday, so many of these past seasons have been championship or bust with a healthy dose of skepticism that it's been really tough, I think, to geek up for a season. I think having these two along with VJ makes it just a lot easier to do that. And I'm excited for it.
Yeah. And so here's where I'll pour a little cold water on Jared and Jared's hopes this coming season. I think one of the interesting things about listening to Daryl Morey talk throughout this offseason has been when VJ has come up, or they've talked even prior to the draft, when they were talking about the selection they were going to make. Most of what Daryl has said has been centered around Maxey and fit with Maxey and timeline with Maxey, and not including necessarily Jared in those conversations, which, to the point made earlier about he only played 20-something games, certainly Tyrese Maxey is more of an anchor point right now than Jared McCain is. But it does give you, you say, all right, there's at least a little bit of skepticism about, all right, felt really good about what you saw, but how much do they believe in that as this is the future? Like, this guy is for sure someone this franchise is going to build around into the future. And once you draft another guard at 3, albeit a guard that can probably scale up defensively and has some easier ways to fit with all these guys than Tyrese and Jared do, it just brings up the natural, like, so what are the expectations from the organization for Jared, right? Like, is he just someone that they view as, if he's long-term the 6th man, is that a good outcome? I think at that pick, I think that's certainly a good outcome, right? Like a top 6 guy in your rotation. I think fans right now would say, well, he was so good in such a limited sample last year that it would probably be a disappointment if he ends up just the 6th man. But with the way that depth has been emphasized in the playoffs over these last 3 years or so, but certainly last year in particular, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if all in air quotes, all he ends up being is like a super high level bench guy that if he's rolling, you're just leaving him in there, right? And I think a lot of these guys, aside from Maxey, are going to have to get comfortable with the idea that maybe tonight's just not your night, or maybe this matchup is just not your matchup, right? It's not to say you're not going to get touches and time and have the ability to go out and, you know, make yourself a nice living playing for this team and playing with these other guys. But there will be at some point some inflection points where there's 5 minutes to go and someone's got to make a tough decision, and more than likely one of these guys is getting excluded because of it. And it ain't going to be Tyrese Maxey, right? So I think the good part behind that is that it will create the most competitive camp and preseason that is possible, right? Like these guys will go in very clear-eyed about my spot is not being handed to me, right? If you're VJ, hey, this guy was really good last year. If you're Jared, they just use a top 3 pick on this guy. And then you look at Quentin and it's like, hey, they essentially stalled all other free agency plans to make sure that they could pay this guy and get him back on the roster. So everyone will go into, late September, early October with this in mind. And I think for the next couple months, as these guys get in the gym with their skills trainers, they're in the weight room, they're going through their off-season stuff, that culture of competitiveness, that has already started, right? You don't get to take 2 months, 3 months off in the summer and then just show up in late September and think, I'm just going to roll right into it, right? Because if you do, and I don't think any of these guys will, these other guys are too talented and too hard of workers for them not to just box you out of a spot entirely. So while I think that creates a little bit of all right, let's slow our roll on Jared and on VJ and all these guys who are not named Tyrese Maxey, it also makes me really excited to see the battles that we're going to get and think about all the work that's being done now to prepare for those battles.
All right. Let's move on to a couple of things just around the league, and then we'll get to one thing I know Kyle wanted to bring that one up last, just because we'll probably run through these things. All right, Kyle Filipowski, you mentioned as a Summer League MVP of the entire Summer League. He was fantastic. Also, I know at least I didn't get a chance to talk with you guys about this. Marcus Smart going to Los Angeles, team up with the Lakers. Bradley Beal going to the Clippers. And what do you guys make of those moves for those 2 particular teams? Chris Paul also, it was out there before. We kind of knew that might be a thing. Chris Paul also going to the Clippers. Your thoughts, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Chris Paul, the Clippers is just really cool. The Marcus Smart thing is interesting to me, because on the one hand, sure, they could clearly use him, but they also just need like an innings eater type. And if there's one thing Marcus Smart has not been over the last 2 years, it's been healthy and reliable and on the floor. So I'm interested to see how that works out. I do think, like I said, they could use his skill set and his defense, even if it has fallen off a little bit since his Boston days. I just don't know like how reliable he can be. And if he's not reliably on the court, they just need depth in the worst way. So we will see.
Marcus Smart is a great theoretical fit who has played almost no basketball for
right.
3 years.
It just feels like he should be a Sixer at this point,
Yeah, and look, I would love a big defensive tough guard to another one to add to this group, but they already have so many guards that you can't even find room for him. So, yeah, I mean, in theory, if he stays healthy, Chris Paul going to LA, I love the it's like, what's that movie with all the old action stars, The Expendables?
Yes.
Yep.
I feel like we're watching NBA Expendables, so
Yeah.
that'll be fun. No, like, look, they have a lot of skill and a lot of big resumes on that team. I think honestly the most fascinating part about that is that Chris Paul and James Harden are going to play on the same basketball team again after the way that ended. But clearly, they would not have gone after him if they thought that was a problem, because James Harden would have made that known that that would have been an issue. So I assume they are going to let bygones be bygones. No real strong takes, right? I'm ready for – I know we're 2 months away from even like media day. I'm ready to actually see some of these teams. I love – everyone gets all fired up about rosters and whatnot in the offseason. We did it last year with Caleb Martin and some of these other guys, and then they took the floor, and I was like, boy, what the hell were we thinking? So get me to some games in the regular season or even the preseason, and then we'll start talking.
I don't know what you're talking about, Kyle. All of my takes from last summer proved to be true, and nobody checked the tape on that one.
I was right about the Hornets just in the summer. So there you go.
Summer championship.
Summer championship. And today, I think it was today, Josh Okogie bought out with the Hornets that we just brought up, and he signed a 1-year deal with the Houston Rockets. So just one last part of the news and notes. And we had another, Kyle, another unfortunate before we came on the show.
Yep.
News about another very, very famous person passing away.
Rest in peace to a legend, Ozzy Osbourne, who frankly, and I think his family and loved ones would say this, so this is not me being mean. I think a lot of people were surprised he made it to 76 given his lifestyle choices, but not many people, you get to say, helped invent an entire genre of music, right? And certainly did it in his own way, lived in his own way. He got famous for biting the heads off of doves and bats and all kinds of other
that bat thing was crazy.
Well, so the crazy thing is that what happened before that, Devon, was I guess he was in a meeting with some kind of, it was either TV or record executives, and they were going to release some doves as part of this meeting. And he was so banged up that he bit a dove instead. That's the story gets passed down from other people, so I don't know. But Ozzy Osbourne, one of a kind human who lived probably like 3 or 4 lives worth of lives. And I think one of the coolest things, despite the fact he didn't look all that good at this show, from what I could see, he got to play one last concert, and it was billed as like, this is it. This is Ozzy's farewell. They knew his health wasn't doing that great. And like, look, we've lost tons of people, music, acting, otherwise, who it just happened all of a sudden, and they didn't really get to have a send-off. So I do think it was cool he was able to have a send-off and do that before he ultimately left us. So the Prince of Darkness, peace out.
I mean, it's not necessarily about music, but you know when stuff is legendary, right? And who the legendary groups are and the acts and all. And Crazy Train and that beat itself is just one that as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh, there it is, Crazy Train. And just the reality show that he and his family had, that was one of the great runs that they had. Was that on MTV at that time?
That predates most of Ozzy's peak was before I was even alive. So
the show was relatively recent though.
Oh yeah, Osbourne's. Yeah, that was like
Osbourne's.
2000.
Yeah,
2000-ish.
I was just wondering if it was on MTV since they had changed from music and started doing all this other stuff. But yeah, it was. Everybody knows, and yeah, he was a wild dude, man. Yeah. It was MTV. Okay, yep. Booth said it as well. Thank you. And just a wild dude, man. The bats biting the head of so crazy stuff. Quick overtime for our roll call. Just want to let everybody know. Thank you. Head over to allphly.com to remember to finish the rest of the show. Thank you on the television side. We appreciate it. AllPHLY.com the rest of the way. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. He lived a life, man. He really did. We did get a last-minute super chat from Pump, who wanted to...
We can just thank Pump for his donation. I don't even think we
really
need to address it. Appreciate the donation.
It's not a serious question, and it doesn't deserve a serious answer. So
we're not going to spend all August answering the same question, Brian.
Didn't say we were going to answer it. I was just going to read it and ask for a roll call. So, fellas, how's the spacing going to look like with VJ? Is he strictly a 6'4" dunker spot guard? I need him to improve his layups 100. Thank you for the super chat, Pump. We really appreciate it, as always. They put out the APB, and they got Pump in there. I saw the chat asking where he was. And,
maybe next time don't put out the APB.
What's the guy's name, Kyle, that owes the $500?
Teacher got game.
Teacher got game. Interesting that he still hasn't shown up with the $500 that he swore.
And I apologize. Whoever it was in the chat earlier asked if he was gonna be, or he or she was going to be at our film session next week. We don't know because we haven't heard from him. So we have no idea where Teacher Got Game is. There's that. All right, let's get ready to say goodbye to everybody. And let everybody know, of course, we'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. It's time for the world famous. It's the roll call. Everybody.
Thank you, everybody, including the Pump Man, for rocking with us today. Thank you to Say What?
Say What? Thank you was the one who said, is Teacher Got Game going to be at the film session?
Hey,
thank you, Say What?
Say What? Thank you to Eugene Ross. Thank you to Smy Guy, Lost Sleep TV, Headfa, my girl Winona.
Hey, no.
Brian Knight.
B Night.
Darkness in the building.
Turn the lights down. I don't know. I need a net. Derek needs a net.
Derek and Devon.
I really need a net. I'm going right this way.
Exactly.
Bree and I apparently are the only ones built to handle Vegas. So we'll see. Because the post-Vegas flu has set in for these boys.
Derek, that means we had a good time out there, man.
Yeah, we did.
Thank you to Mom's grandchildren. What's up to Mom? Coming through. Let's see. SB Cole, AA Ron,
what
Love
up, Cole?
Christ is here.
What up, Aaron?
Love Christ. What's up to Bootzilla?
Hold on. I just drunk my water. Boots!
There you go.
There you
I was
go.
worried for a second there.
All right.
We got Greeny Green. Is that Ceno Bite Mare? Oh, that's what it looks like to me. So that's what we're rolling with.
Sounds about right.
If I messed it up, my apologies. Dave P hanging out with us.
What up,
Nice
Dave?
Hanging out with us. Hello to Val. Hello to Jess. Hello to Jay the Jungle. To Mark.
What up, Jay?
Blackstock, to
Mark.
Who else? Marty Bones. D Fry, who D Fry I think is a new viewer, new listener who said
D Fry was active.
what are everyone's names on the show? So I gave them a nice little summary. Normally when we're in studio, we'll do it's a little easier to point, but we are not in studio today. I believe we'll probably be back tomorrow, at least a couple of us.
I can point because I'm in the middle, so I can just... That's Kyle. That's Derek.
Thank you to Alina Wynn. Thank you to everybody who was here. Thank you to Rick Morse, Rick Sack.
What up, Ricky? Go get a Rick.
All our Ricks. Thank you, everybody, for rocking with us. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 p.m. I believe Derek might be starting vacation tomorrow. Although, given the
vacation, you mean I'm going to be sitting on my couch?
Given the state he's in, I don't know where he's traveling to except the bed or the toilet. So we will see you. Devon and I will see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. as we always do, Monday through Friday. I don't know what we're talking about. It'll be something fun, something Sixers.
100%.
Who the heck knows? Until then, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications each and every time we go live. And hit the thumbs up button as a get well soon to our sick boys on the show, but also as a thank you to super producer Bree, making it all happen behind the scenes. We appreciate you as always. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.
See ya.
We all silly like the mayor.